First of all, we play. We play like children. We have fun. After all, however difficult it is to make a movie, to get the money together, the egos, the financing, and all of that. Once we're on the set together, and we don't have to worry about those things anymore, then it really is very playful. Even if you're doing something very dark and dangerous, for us there's a lot of playfulness, and that's the way I like to feel around me on the set. That the actors have freedom to invent things and play with things. I do expect them to do their homework and be prepared, as Sarah has pointed out to me. But I'm very lazy, so if the actors will do a lot, then I don't have to do so much.
I came super prepared because I figured that's what if I showed up unprepared, you would kick my ass, probably, and I didn't even know you particularly, but I thought, this man is going to want real preparation. But it was incredibly relaxed. That was actually, in this Cosmopolis, I had a very difficult scene to do. It was about 16 pages long. It's about 15 minutes long, the scene, which is very long for a movie. And when we finished shooting it after 4 days, I thought, I didn't work hard enough at all. That felt too easy. And you gave us a frightening amount of freedom, actually. I mean, I didn't, you would come in and just go, that was great, let's move on. And it was terrifying. I thought, but I had to have screwed that up. That couldn't have been good. So it was amazing freedom and relaxation. And like you say, it's a dark scene, but it was actually really playful and fun to try to murder Robert Pattinson. Was suddenly the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. So, yeah.
As he knows, when the Twihards hear about this, his life will be worth nothing. He's worried about that. Sarah, you're an actress. You've been in 2 movies with me.
Frightening freedom, I think, is a good way to put it. I think when I arrived in Germany, I really expected that we were going to do rehearsals and read-throughs and spend a lot of time with the material, and you put the kibosh on that very quickly, and so it just became about Michael and I spending a lot of time together at this castle in Germany, and then creating and crafting a character. And then when we were going to do Cosmopolis, David came into my trailer and said, "So you're going to play a modern woman? You ready?" And I said, "Yeah. Do you want to talk about this, my ideas?" And you pointed at the script and you were like, "No, it's all there. It's all there." Okay. So I really felt like I had a lot of space to create 2 very different characters.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you've had worked on movies where you did rehearse.
Yeah.
And I tried that once, and I didn't like it.
Why not?
Well, it was on the fly, and we sat around the table and we sort of did it like theater, everybody reading and then giving their ideas, and their ideas were really boring, and I didn't want to listen to their ideas. So, and the other thing was that, and then there were weird ego things that started to happen, where people were twisting words and arguing with each other about interpretations. Yeah. Do you find that? Yeah. And so I thought, well, this is not really productive for me. And also, I found that once we got on the set, everything changed. You have you have all the actors that you need for the scene. They're in the costumes that they're in. You're in the actual set, and that changed everything. So I thought, well, what were we rehearsing for? So that was my one time that I tried it, and I really didn't find that it was productive.
Yeah. I like rehearsing because I like my ideas and my interpretation, and I think it's important for the director to hear my ideas. I know he's going to ignore them, but I'd like him to hear them. No, it's a weird thing with film. I can't figure out what's the best thing to do. there's some sort of middle ground. Although with this, I had lots of time on my own to prepare it. And in a funny way, that worked for the character I do in this, because he lives alone entirely. And he's in love with Robert Pattinson, but he's never gotten to be in the room with Robert Pattinson. And he loves him so much he hates him and wants to kill him. So that actually when it came to
that is a good idea. I never thought of that.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Total reshoot.
Yes. See, you should have listened to me, man. We should have rehearsed.
Paolo, we need to reshoot that last scene, because that's... Why didn't you tell me this before?
Well, you didn't want to rehearse,
if we had
man.
rehearsed,
Yeah.
yeah. So, in terms of freedom, I think Peter here, who is not really Michael Fassbender, it's really the same. I mean, we do talk, we do prepare many things, but ultimately we are working very spontaneously with the moment that it happens. And I mean, when we blocked that scene, we were really blocking it like a piece of theater. You did have a few ideas, I recall.
I did.
Which we actually incorporated.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, see, there is a moment when the actor really does collaborate a lot. But it's a different moment than when you're rehearsing. Yeah. But in terms of, and then after we block the scene, and it's just the actors and me working out the scene like a piece of theater, then Peter comes and looks at what we've done as in terms of choreography and stuff, and that's when we start to think about how we should light it, how we should shoot it, what lens we should use.
And it's like starting for the first time every time. It's a real voyage of discovery on every film. I look forward to each time I shoot a film with David with great anticipation, a mixture of excitement and fear, which never leaves me until we finish the film. But we do work, both of us work spontaneously without working things out very much beforehand. However much we might talk about a scene, things change, and each scene, each film makes different demands, which we have to discover as we go along, very much.
Yeah. And I would like to say that what you saw of Cosmopolis there was not any indication of how the movie really looks, because it's a video from a computer, and it's unfinished, and and it's very gray, and Peter's lighting is actually, as usual, fantastic and wonderful, and but we wanted to give you some little taste of where we were with the movie. So, Paolo, what else?
Sorry, but I'm a little, already shocked. I have to find the money for the reshoot the last scene. I have a problem now.
I'll do it for free.
I won't.
Sarah, do you think that something changed between both films you work with David, the first and the second? Something, the way he directed you, or the way he filmed you, everything? Or you felt exactly the same in both films?
Well, I think I knew what I was going into the second time around. So I was, I think, mentally prepared and just anticipating it with a lot more excitement than fear. But I think in Cosmopolis, you shot so close to us a lot of the time that it was a very different feeling physically, because Rob and I spent the majority of our scenes sitting side by side, facing outwards until the very last scene that we have together, where we face towards each other. So it was very static in terms of its body language and in terms of its feeling, whereas A Dangerous Method seemed to have a little more flow. So I think that would be the biggest kind of distinction physically for me. But I didn't think there was a huge difference in terms of how you directed. I mean, David kind of gives you a lot of freedom, but on the day when you're shooting, he comes up to you and he tweaks, just kind of ever so slightly, your performance in specific ways. So you know what you want, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Paul.
Paul didn't do two movies with me, so Paul actually acted in a scene with me as an actor in the movie Barney's version.
How did you like that? How did that feel for you? Not getting to rehearse.
It was good for me. Very good.
You were a very good actor. You were an excellent
Thank
actor.
you, Paul.
Yes, you were excellent.
Coming from you, that's a major, major compliment.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I was so intrigued because I just wanted to ask both of you because I didn't know how much you had anything worked out, and obviously, when we blocked it, it was going to change everything. What was amazing, though, and it's a nice thing, is that the sense of security that I kept thinking, oh, how did they do have all this worked out? They knew what we were going to do. You know, so it gives you a great sense of security as an actor.
Which is false, as all senses of security are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A total lie.
Yeah. Well, you know, you remember we have a set, and we design the set, and the set has different areas and arenas, and we said, okay, well, this is our playground. Let's explore it, because we could have done almost the whole scene just sitting down, one facing the other, but we didn't. We moved all the way through the scene and the set, and so you knew we were discovering that.
I know, but it didn't feel like that. It felt so masterful. Truly.
You know.
No, it didn't feel spontaneous. Amazing.
With Cosmopolis, how the two of you would kind of design the shot and kind of shoot it, and then you would watch it back in your trailer, and then we would come to set, right? No? Well, when we were blocking certain scenes, it seemed like you two would work it all out.
You mean Peter and me?
Yeah.
Well, yes. What happens is this is pretty. I think it's just normal, but then of course I found out it's quite abnormal. Yeah. But we block the scene with the actors, and then you go away, and then we have you're getting hair, makeup, costume, and stuff, and then Peter and I work with the stand-ins who have watched what you do. Stand-ins are very interesting. They really should be actors, because they need to see what the actors do and then replicate it, to do it exactly, because Peter and I use them for the lighting and for the camera movement and everything. And if they do something a little bit wrong, wait a minute, who's that over there? Hey, Kenan. Kenan is you might have caught a glimpse of him in Cosmopolis. He was kind enough to agree to play a little role in the film.
I just died. So
I said, you know, you should be able to do this, because in the movie you're dead, so you just lie there. But that wasn't easy, was it?
No, it's not as easy as it looks. I can do an entire masterclass on dying if you want to do this sometime.
Anyway, well, so the stand-in, and there was one for Kenan too, I think, who had to lie there. We light it with them, and then when you come back to the set ready to go, we are prepared. You know, we have lit it, we have figured out the camera move and everything.
But it's interesting, because we could actually watch the shot without, watching playback. So we could see exactly what the camera movement was going to be without having to, I don't know, I mean, some actors really like to watch playback, and personally I don't while I'm working. Yeah. But it gave you a real keen sense of awareness of where the camera was going to be and how you're going to be framed in the shot without actually having to see yourself in it.
Oh, you mean with the stand-ins?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, video and video monitors and digital technology has changed everything for me, the way we make movies. You know, in the old days, you didn't see anything that was shot until the next day or the day after when you saw the film. Now you actually see, even before you shoot, you see what the shot is. I mean, it's really, I think it's fantastic, and I enjoy it a lot, and I think it really compresses things, and some actors really love to really know where the camera is and what the camera's doing. And if they do, then I want them to have access to the monitors anytime and see themselves, whatever. And some actors really just, they don't want to know about that, and that's fine too, that's easy.
Was it too hard for you working with the producer, Paulo Branco, or?
Paolo is an animal.
Really?
He's very scary. But fortunately, he scares the people with money instead of me, so that's good. That's good. No, it's been wonderful working with Paolo. He really understands cinema. He is a lover of cinema. You know, you can have producers who are really just money people and they don't really understand movie making at all. And Paolo is so experienced, you know. He really does understand every aspect of cinema, which is rare with a producer these days especially. And so I think we all of us felt very supported by him, you know, the real understanding of our problems, of our concerns, and it was really quite wonderful. I mean, he is one of the great producers, you know.
Okay. One more, just tiny one. So, and Robert Pattinson, which is the main character in Cosmopolis, how he was during the filming, how he was. He was okay during all the scenes, all the shots, everything about it. How he was.
He was okay. He's okay in about 62% of the shots.
Okay. Okay.
But fortunately, we cut out those bad shots in the movie, so now in the movie he's 100% great.
Yeah. Thank you
No,
so much.
actually, no. He's a superb actor, and you can ask Paul because Paul did a very long scene with him, and anybody who can keep up with Paul in a scene where they're just the two of them, I think is that's a major achievement. You know, I think he's really good. Yeah. No. He was,
Yeah.
and you'll see. There's no question. He's really good. I see you.
Okay. Your pictures always had a brilliant focus on the relation between humanity and technology, the physical and the psychological. So, how relevant do you think the psychoanalysis and the power of the mind are, to those dichotomic relations between humanity and technology, the physical and the psychological?
In fact, when I'm making a movie, I don't think about my other movies at all, really. So I don't think in abstract terms like youth are thinking. You know, I don't think about, will this movie explore the relationship between science, technology, and humanity? I really don't think about that at all. I was very excited to do a movie in which we resurrect Freud and Jung, and we discover Sabina, and we get to explore the era of Vienna and Zurich at the turn of the century and the birth of psychoanalysis. I was only thinking about that. How do you make the story work? How do you show what's interesting with these people? How can you make the movie accurate? Because the film is very accurate. You know, what you see there is really, it has been based on a lot of information that we have about what everybody said, what everybody did. So that's all I was thinking about, you know. And if this movie, for example, had no connection to my other movies, so what? That would be okay, you know. It's when you're being a critic and you're looking at all the films that somebody has done that you want to make connections, you know, amongst the films. But for me, creatively, that isn't an issue. You know, it doesn't help me make the movie to think about those things. I'm not trying to be evasive because, you know, I could say things that would connect this movie with those other movies. I could say, for example, that Freud, his revolution was to insist on the reality of the human body. You know, at a time when nobody spoke about the human body, everything was repressed. It was a very repressive era, very taboo to talk about sex, to talk about strange things like sadomasochism and so on, and child abuse and incest. Freud talked about those things, and he insisted that the human body is the first fact of human existence. And so once you think of that, you can start to connect this movie
with Videodrome or The Brood or something with the human body.
Yeah, you can connect it with all the other movies. So, but as I say, I'm only thinking of that now that you ask me. It's not something that I thought of before I made the movie because it's not part of the creative process that I go through.
It's an independent choice, right? It's an independent way you develop the movie. The movie is independent from the others you've directed.
Yes, it exists alone, yeah.
Now he needed somebody to play a psychopath who was in love with Robert Pattinson.
And you've got the face.
That's
for
me,
it.
man. That's me. That is me. So he needed somebody to do that, and
I'm
I
not
was
Robert.
available. Yeah. Right?
Thank you.
Viggo is notorious for the depth of his preparation. He'll travel around the world looking for old books that Freud might have had in his office and so on. And Michael said that all he needed to do was to read The Idiot's Guide to Jung. And that was enough for him. Whereas Viggo read everything that Freud ever wrote. So they do have a slightly different approach. But ultimately, what's great is that they can let go of their egos completely and submerge themselves into the characters, and that was, you know, we had a lot of fun on the set. I mean, it was very very light and what can I say? You know, like that. I looked at a lot of movies and things that Rob Pattinson had done, and then I spoke to him, we talked, and I was completely convinced that he would be great in the movie, and he was. I think, you know, it's strange how you judge an actor, especially, you know, if you're working with someone like Paul, who has a huge body of work, and you can see the range that he has. That makes it easy to know that he's really good. But with someone like Rob, who's very young and he hasn't done all that much, and 3 of his movies are Twilight movies, and so it's sort of the same thing. And so I looked at a movie called Little Ashes, which in fact was shot by Peter's son, Adam, in which he played Salvador Dali. With a Spanish accent. That was really interesting. Interesting that he would do that, because it's a strange role to play, and it's not the kind of role that somebody who wants to be a big movie star would play. And in fact, Rob he's very surprised that he's a movie star. He really is an actor. And it was very apparent, you know, to me that was the case. So I was not at all surprised. I could see the talent, but that's something you have to do as a director. It's one of the most important things that you can do as a director, is be good at casting, but people don't notice it. It's invisible, you know, because it's before you say action or cut. You can kill your movie by casting the wrong people. So you have to really be good at it, and yet there's no rules, you know. There's no guidebook that tells you how to do this.
Thank you.
Huh? Yes, you can.
I think one of the things about Rob, too, working with him, is that he plays such a strong character, and he looks so good in the, you know, Armani suits, and he's got this great American accent, and he's so sure of himself, and he's so strong, and then as soon as you would call cut, he kind of turns back into this self-deprecating British guy, and it would literally be at the end of a take, and then he'd start talking to me, and I'd look at him, and I'd just think, where did that other guy go? Where did that American guy go? And so it was so kind of transformative in a way that it'll be really exciting, I think, for a lot of people to see.
Yeah, Kira was the same, actually. You know, she was playing Russian Jewish insane, and then suddenly she's English not Jewish insane. Paul, you know, was always a blithering guy who was in love with Rob Pattinson, so he didn't change. Well, I have never undergone psychoanalysis, and that is because I am so completely normal. I have no problems. So that's why. But what's interesting is, of course, the movie is showing us the beginning of psychoanalysis, and of course, in years later, it split into many different fragments. There's Adlerian analysis, there's Jungian, now there's cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on. But what was interesting for me to see was sort of the invention of the psychoanalytic relationship, which was a brand new relationship that never existed before Freud, the relationship between an analyst and his patient. You know, the idea that you come to a stranger, you don't know this person, and he asks you to tell him everything about yourself, your most intimate secrets, erotic, sexual, neurotic, family, whatever. A very strange and interesting new relationship. So we knew a lot about it because it's in the nature of psychoanalysis that you record everything. If you're talking about dreams, you record all your dreams, you write them down, and these people in the film were very obsessive about everything. They would record everything. They wrote letters constantly to each other, and they wrote diaries. And for example, we have the admission papers of Jung for Sabina. In other words, we have 50 pages of description of Sabina's symptoms and her illness and what she said when she came to the Bergholzli and so on. So it's really, a lot of the dialogue in the movie comes from their letters, and it's the way they also recorded each other's conversations. So it really is very accurate that way.
I'd never know. It's always, I mean, one of the nice things is, one of the exciting things is to not know where it's going to take me. I mean, you say Viggo does lots of research. For certain things, I will have to do something like that, but then sometimes I feel like that kind of research, that'll be too much, and it'll be better if I just kind of go with it. I never know what it's going to demand, and then sometimes I'll do something that demands research, and I'll do it just because I'm sort of interested. You know, I played a boxing manager once, and I got so into boxing, and that became just fascinating to me. So I don't ever really know, which is clear from my work, what the hell I'm doing. And I don't. It's always a unique thing every time, and I have to find what feels right and that kind of thing. So.
I approach my work like a student. I do a lot of research. So I did a lot of research on Emma Jung. At the time, I was taking a film theory course, and we were studying apparatus theory and psychoanalysis and how it's applied to cinema as a semiotic language. So I was reading a lot of Freudian psychology, and then my father is also a psychologist. So I was really prepared for the film. So that's kind of how I approached A Dangerous Method. And then Cosmopolis, I just started researching New York socialites from the 50s and from the 30s and 20s, and then I wanted to have a very specific way of speaking, so I worked with a dialect coach. I worked with a dialect coach on both films. On A Dangerous Method, we did a kind of a light, neutral British accent, and then I did kind of a New England boarding school twang for Cosmopolis. So I like to approach it from a very self-studied kind of way. And then you have to kind of let it all go and have fun and play on the day and find people and your scene partner.
No, it's amazing. I wish I could do that. It's a tricky thing, though. I can overburden myself and things, and I think I need to. It's very impressive, Sarah. Very impressive.
Paul, I heard a rumor that you and Rob Pattinson both independently.
No, I was actually going to mention that. Thank you.
Yeah. I think you should.
No, this was interesting. Not the one thing I did. I thought about the part a little bit before I did it, but I was interested. I watched. Again, this was something that I almost more personally was interested in than it was the right thing for the character. But I went on YouTube, which I just think is the most glorious thing in the world, because you can watch any crazy fucking thing on there. And they had some footage of stalkers. I play a stalker in this. And they had some amazing footage of some interesting people in prison talking about their love objects, sort of, and it was fascinating. But one of the things I did, just because I was interested, is I watched a very long interview with a man named Jeffrey Dahmer, who was a cannibal. He killed people and ate them. I was interested in this. And I watched this. It was a long interview with him, and he was fascinating. And when I got to the set, and I was mentioning this, it turned out that Robert, for research on his character, had watched the same interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. And it won't mean anything until you see the movie, but there's something kind of fascinating that the two of us were drawn to playing the same character, psychopaths, and there's a very much a relationship in the scene I have with him that we are sort of the same person. I want to be him, and in a weird way, he kind of wishes he was me in some weird ways. So, anyway.
And they do eat each other.
And we eat each other. So I'm glad I watched the footage so I knew how to do that just right.
Hi. This is a question for all of you. It's not very deep and it's a bit awkward, but I was interested in knowing, while you guys were growing up, if you had any idols or any inspirations to make you follow movies and making movies.
Paul?
Really? I liked very much horror movies. The Wolfman. I wanted to be the Wolfman. I wanted to be the Mummy and things like that. I really want to be a werewolf in a movie someday. Will you do that for me? Make me a werewolf?
Maybe.
Okay.
If you're nice.
Okay. So those kinds of things I loved as a kid, and I guess if I had any, I liked Alec Guinness very much. Even when I was a little boy, I thought he was very funny in things that I would see, and just loved him, and loved how normal and insane he seemed at the same time. So I guess that kind of person.
I'm a cinephile, so I love watching movies, and I've always watched movies from the time I was a young kid. I used to watch a lot of classics with my parents, and when I was a teenager, I got really into Italian neorealism, and I just loved the idea of taking the camera onto the streets and shooting reality and getting to the humanity of situations and people, and I think that's what I love so much about cinema.
When I was very small, perhaps the age of 5, I saw my first film, which I believe was a Charlie Chaplin film, and I still love Charlie Chaplin.
Because I am extremely old, and my first movie experiences are probably at the dawn of cinema. I was the first that I really thought of film as actually an art form came in the 1950s and the early 60s with what used to be called the art film, which you could actually make money making art films in those days. And so it was all the classic guys like Fellini and Bergman and Truffaut and Kurosawa, Antonioni, Godard. Actually, I was very excited to hear that, Paolo, you were doing an interview with Jean-Luc Godard, and your son told me that he actually mentioned one of my movies, and I was extremely excited because I had no idea that he would even know that I existed, and you know how that is. And then, so those were my. What did you say? Those were my inspirations, really. People that directors who I thought were could make cinema that was art as well as being entertaining.
I believed every word of that.
Okay,
Yes.
because it's such a complete lie. Maybe we need to eat now. You know, you're hungry, aren't you?
Yeah.